All the Young Dudes, Peter's Perspective by Lanky Idiot. Chapter 1, Summer 1971. Peter could hardly fall asleep on an average night, and this was certainly not an average night. Tomorrow he and James would be off to Hogwarts. He tried to enjoy his last summer as usual, but Hogwarts was always in the back of his mind. He couldn't have forgotten if he wanted to, especially since James hadn't shut up about it since they got their letters. Peter was relieved to have gotten a letter at all. He understood vaguely that though his family were poor bloods, there was a possibility he would be a squib. He'd worried about it more since Philomena left for university. The 7-year age gap meant they weren't very close, and his mother discouraged him from asking too many questions about Philly, or talking about her in general. It was like his mother had given up on her before she even had a chance, and become even more dependent on Peter to carry on their family legacy. It was a tremendous amount of pressure for an 11-year-old, so he tried not to think about it. He was expected to be great, to be important. His mother told him all the time that he needed to change the world. Peter didn't want to change the world. He just wanted to be important to somebody. He thought about his destiny and hardly slept a wink. His mother gently shook him awake, pushing his hair out of his face. It was so early that it was still dark out, but he could see the sun beginning to rise through his bedroom window. She smiled softly and kissed his cheek before leaving his room wordlessly. A cup of coffee following behind her, stringing itself. He sat up slowly and rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Today was the day then, the first day of the rest of his life. Peter didn't want to think about how he probably wouldn't ever see his friends from primary school again. Not that he saw them outside of school, because his mother didn't approve, but he would miss them furiously. He thought back to saying goodbye to Rosie and Jane for the last time on the last day at his Muggle school. He knew it would be their final goodbye, but the girls thought it was just goodbye for the summer. He remembers the confusion on their faces when he cried. Peter didn't really remember how he ended up becoming close with the girls. His mother warned him that becoming close with Muggles could affect his magic, but he didn't particularly care. The first interaction he had involved Jane punching a mean boy in the ear above them for picking on him, and Rosie gave him a band-aid from the beat-up tin in her backpack that had Mickey Mouse on it. After that, they were always waiting for him on the first day of school. He was grateful James was his best friend, and that James was a wizard. If Peter was going to be starting a new school, he was glad he had James there with him. He hoped they'd be sorted into the same house. Peter didn't think he was brave enough to be Gryffindor, but James had his heart set on Gryffindor, so Peter hoped they might have mercy on him. His father was a Gryffindor too. He didn't think he could be like his father. Thinking about it, Peter didn't think he was smart enough to be a Ravenclaw, like his mother either. He wasn't cunning enough to be a Slytherin, which was fine with him because they sort of scared him. He'd probably be sorted into Hufflepuff. He liked to think was a good friend. He was loyal enough to the friends he had, and he always tried to be honest and hard-working. Peter kicked off his blankets and slid off his mattress. Then he made his bed meticulously. He would miss his morning routine at home. He liked waking up early and having breakfast with his parents. He liked sitting on the porch and waiting the sunrise while his mother read and sipped a cup of tea. He made his way downstairs, letting the socked feet step on every stair as he descended. His mother was placing plates on the table when he entered the dining room. There was a full English breakfast waiting for him at his place, and he took his seat. He wasn't very hungry. The nerves of the big day were making his stomach turned terrible. He picked at the food on his plate, only managing a piece of toast as his mother and father ate silently. The Pettigrews weren't a family of talkers, and he was only supposed to address his parents when spoken to. So many mornings were silent. "Are you excited for today, Petey?" his mother asked, looking at him with a cup of coffee to her lips. "Yeah, it will be good," he says, stuttering a little. He tried not to, or at least tried to catch himself when he could. It angered his father terribly when he stuttered. "You'll make us proud," his father said, matter-of-factly, not looking away from the Daily Prophet he was reading. It was so sure. Everything his father said was so sure, and it made Peter terribly anxious. What if I don't? What if I fail? Peter excused himself from the table after a few bites of sausage, with the excuse of last-minute packing to finish. He actually just wanted to watch the sunrise one last time where he could just be himself. Not Peter Pettigrew, brave Gryffindor, who saved his family legacy. Not Peter Pettigrew, the brilliant Ravenclaw who changed the wizarding world with his progressive laws. He was just Peter. His short, thick legs dangled off the side of the porch as the warm morning breeze blew his hair around his face gently. His mother joined him after a while, and he felt her hand against his head. She ran her fingers through his hair, combing through a few times before sitting next to him and wrapping her arm around him. "We are so proud of you, Peter. Your father is too, really. He just has a hard time expressing it sometimes," she says, finally breaking the silence between them. Peter nods, leaning into her. "I know," he says, even if he doesn't. He doesn't feel it all the time, and it's hard to live with so many things unsaid between them. He wishes his father wasn't the quiet type. He wishes his father was more like James's. Fleement was good at words and encouragement, at being a father. James, particularly, got a mental any time he tried something, even if he was rubbish at it. He often found himself being jealous of James. He wished he wasn't. James was the best. He was kind without the acceptation that people would return the favor. He was athletic and good at most things, but he was humble when he probably shouldn't have been. "You're going to make us proud. Don't worry about where you sorted. The hat is hardly wrong," she says, before kissing his forehead. It's not even close to what he was thinking about, but he nods and smiles at her anyways. James showed up with Fleement and Euphemia, sometime around 9. His father helped him load his trunk into their nice car and gave him a firm pat on the back in lieu of a goodbye hug, and his mother sat in the back seat beside him and James. "It's the big day, Pete. Aren't you excited?" James asked, practically vibrating with excitement. "Yeah, I'm excited, I suppose," Peter says, smiling in his friend's direction. Peter heard his mother and the Potters are talking about something that he doesn't care enough to pay attention to. He's more focused on not puking all over the backseat. His stomach is still churning and he feels sicker than he had at the breakfast table. James rumbles beside him about the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and Peter just nods along. He forces a few "oh wow" and "really?" to keep James content. But most of what James says goes in one ear and out the other. When they pull into King's Cross Station, Peter's heart lurches and he swallows down his nerves. Fleement unloads all of the luggage from the boot of the car while Euphemia and his mother fetch trolleys to stack their trunks and other belongings onto. James fixes his glasses and smooths his hair in the car's side mirror before taking over where his father is loading the carts. Peter smiles weakly in thanks and then follows behind James as he pushes forward towards the barrier that leads to platform 9¾ James goes first, without hesitation, and his parents follow right behind him. Peter's mother smiles, nodding, and he takes a deep breath before running into the barrier. He holds his breath until he clears to the other side, and the breath is forced out of him as he sees hundreds of wizards' families sending their children off. The train is extraordinary. It's huge, with gold letters across the front that read the Hogwarts Express. James is easy to spot, with his dark hair sticking up in every direction, and Peter walks towards him and his parents. His mother is at his side again after a few steps, and James smiles when they're reunited again. James' mother fusses over him a little bit, and he lets her until a few older girls walk by and giggle. He groans, and Peter holds back a giggle and pulls away from Euphemia's hands. They give their cards to some gentlemen in robes while loading the train carriages. Then James and Peter step apart to say their private goodbyes to their parents. Peter's mother smiles at him, smoothing out his shirt as tears fill her eyes. "Write to me every day," she says, the tears falling down her cheeks, and Peter nods. "Every day," confirms, pulling her into a tight hug. Peter doesn't even know he's crying until he pulls back. There are tears marks on his mother's white dress. She smiles and ruffles his hair before stepping away. Peter and his mother turn back to James and his parents, who are sharing a last hug. James isn't crying, but both of his parents are. "Don't worry, it will be great. I will come back as a Gryffindor and a future head boy," he says, and gives them each a kiss on the cheek. James turns, noticing Peter watching, and smiles mischievously. "Peter and I are gonna be perfect angels." "James Flaming Potter, you better behave," Euphemia says, and he nods. Something about a smile, though, told Peter he was in for a whole lot of mischief. "All aboard," a conductor calls, and Peter jumps. "We better go if you want a good spot." "Come on, Pete," James says, and grabs Peter's wrist. "Oh, James, dear, can you hold onto this for Peter, please? I don't want him to lose it before he has a chance to do any magic," Peter's mother asked, extending his wand to James. Peter knew his cheeks were a deep shade of pink as James nodded and took the wand. James slid it into the sleeve of his jumper and smiled at all three of the parents. James pulls him towards one of the open carriage doors, waving towards the parents a final time, and Peter waves furiously in that direction too. Peter felt a little silly for being embarrassed. It was just the Potters, and in all fairness, he had forgotten about his wand and all the packing chaos. He decided to push it from his mind.